I'm doing this because someone needs to stay and fight. Someone needs to be the tip of the arrow. I'm doing it because I truly believe that we need to liberate California.
His father fled communist Cuba.
He had a belief that America could provide a future that Cuba couldn't for his family.
And he became a successful businessman, husband, and father of 6.
I still believe in the American dream, and I've always told my children, if you can't find the solution, you be the solution.
Today, my guest in this special series of candidates for California governor is Anthony Trimino, who talks about his faith.
It's about freedom, liberty, it's about protecting our children, your right to work, your right to worship.
Education and school choice.
Things like critical race theory, things like sexuality, a lot of sex ed needs to be taken out of our classrooms.
And his plans for cutting through gridlock.
I truly believe that I can get in there and through collaboration, negotiation, and sheer will get done the agenda that I know the California people want to get done.
California Insider is a nonpartisan show. Our objective is to inform you of the issues so that you can make your own decision. I'm Siamak Korami. Welcome to California Insider.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So you're running to be the governor of California.
Yes.
Why?
So it's a story that starts back in the 50s when my grandfather fled a communist Cuba to come to the United States to pursue the American dream. He had a belief that America could provide a future that Cuba couldn't for his family. So he came to the United States. He landed in California. He had to come alone because he didn't have enough money to bring his pregnant wife, who was pregnant with my father, and their 3 daughters. So he came to the United States. He was here for 6 months, saved up enough money, and finally sent for them. My grandfather truly believed that a person shouldn't rely on the government, and he just left a communist country where the government controlled everything. So he became an entrepreneur. He was committed to not being dependent on the government, and so he became an entrepreneur, started a company 50 years ago in South Central LA. It still exists today. My father runs it. My grandfather has passed away, but my father continues to run that company. They instilled that entrepreneurial spirit inside me, and I started my company 20 years ago in Downey, California, a small little 200 square foot office. And I built that company up over the last 20 years to what Inc. magazine just called one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. So if you think about that story, I have absolutely no reason to want to leave California. My grandfather fled a communist country to be here. My father owns a business here. I do. I met my wife here. Our children were born here. But when you think about what we've experienced in California and how our rights and our liberties have been infringed upon, that American dream that my grandfather came to this country to pursue is on life support. And I believe truly that the American dream is actually more alive right now in Cuba, where today, as we sit here, Cubans are being persecuted, they're being beaten, killed, abducted, all for the pursuit of freedom. And when those Cubans are marching the streets right now in Cuba, they're not waving a communist flag, a Cuban flag, a Russian flag, or even a Chinese flag. They're waving the American flag. And that says something. That's the universal symbol of freedom and hope in the world. And so I'm running because I believe that there's still hope. There's still hope for California. I still believe in the American dream. And I've always told my children, if you can't find the solution, you be the solution. So even though I, like many people, were considering leaving California, and it would be a lot easier for me to leave California. I can go to Florida, improve my quality of life, pay lower taxes. I could be happy there, but it really wouldn't be honoring my grandfather. It wouldn't be honoring my children. And so I've decided to stay and fight. I have a lot to lose in this, but there's so much more to gain. That's why I'm running.
And what are the things that you see? You mentioned you wanted to leave California. What were the reasons that you thought about leaving California?
So a couple of reasons. As a business owner, California is not business friendly. We pay the most taxes we pay more taxes than anywhere in the nation. So it's not business friendly. The climate isn't business friendly. I have friends and family who have children that are in public school systems, and they talk to me constantly about, what's being taught to our children, the radical ideologies like critical race theory and questioning your sexuality, masturbation at 3rd grade. Our churches were shut down last year. I mean, for the fact that the government was able to come in and basically say that we couldn't worship, we couldn't attend church, and when churches started to open, their position was, well, you just can't sing at churches. That for me was incredibly overreaching. You think about our healthcare system here and how our government, our local government, our state government wants to mandate vaccines, wants to implement digital vaccine passports. I wanted to leave California because it was starting to look a lot like the country that my grandfather fled from. That's why I wanted to leave. And that's why a lot of businesses are leaving. That's why a lot of families are leaving. We talk to businesses and families all the time. Businesses are leaving because the climate is not business friendly. Families are leaving because they don't have hope that someone's going to come and protect their children. So there are a lot of reasons to leave, but I'm hoping to find those reasons to stay.
So how is it possible to fix this? What are your plans on creating reasons for people to stay?
Well, I don't believe that we should be sending politicians in to fix problems that politicians started. So I believe the answer is sending in someone with a whole different mindset, a whole different way of thinking, an entrepreneurial mindset. As entrepreneurs, we don't see rules as things necessarily to prevent us from pursuing our goal. We try to think of ways to, we fixate on a goal and we find ways to achieve it. And so our government is such that there's a lot of process and protocol, and entrepreneurs are really good at breaking through, changing process, changing protocols. So some of the things that I want to do as a business owner is I want to be able to look at our spending, right? As a business owner, we conduct audits all the time. We look at our expenses. We try to find efficiencies. We try and find ways to save money. We also are really good at making money. So I think that there's a way that we can actually look at California and start to monetize a lot of things that we don't currently now. I think that because of my close proximity to the healthcare community, we work with physicians, doctors, medical groups, hospital systems. I have a really good coalition of individuals that I can consult with, scientists, doctors, physicians that can be a guiding light with all of our issues on the healthcare front. Some of the people I get to work with in the business community are engineers, inventors, CEOs, solving complex problems with energy, with water, agriculture, fire. I look at my last 20 years as an entrepreneur, and it just so happens that I've built a coalition of people around me that I can take with me to Sacramento. And one thing that a business owner knows that a politician doesn't is that one person can't fix it. But surrounding yourself around the brightest and best minds in the world, we can get a lot done.
What about the fact that things that in Sacramento may not work like a normal business, where you may not be in charge, even though you think you're in charge of, you will be in charge, and then there's groups within your community or under your command that may not like ideas that you're proposing?
You mean like in any business? Where some of your employees don't always agree with kind of your vision and your goal? An entrepreneur understands how to negotiate, how to collaborate, how to bring people to the table, and how to leverage power. I would argue that the governor has, I think we've both experienced it. You live in California. Our governor has an enormous amount of power, and when they wield that power for evil, it has an incredibly negative impact on how we live our lives. But can you imagine somebody being in that office and using that leverage, that power, that influence to actually give you back freedoms, to give you back liberties? I mean, it can work both ways. So I truly believe that I can get in there and through collaboration, negotiation, and sheer will get done the agenda that I know the California people want to get done.
And what are the top issues that you see in the community in California that we're facing now?
I have my own personal issues, but I've had the opportunity to speak to people across the state. People in the church community, parents, people in the business community. And right now, the number one topic across the entire state, well, two, children and vaccines. 100%, hands down. More than fire, more than water, more than taxes. People are fleeing our state right now in droves. Two demographics. Business people because of the climate, and parents who are scared and worried about what their kids are going to be indoctrinated with at school, and the idea that they're going to be forced to actually take vaccines and or be part of a digital vaccine passport database. I was speaking to parents last night, parents who have children that are immune compromised, that cannot take any vaccine, their life could be on the line, thinking about leaving, going to Arizona, going to Texas, going to Florida. They're absolutely petrified. So the top two topics that I get all the time are, what are you gonna do about vaccines, about vaccine passports in our schools? And then obviously what's important to me in addition to that, because I have children, are taxes. How are we going to actually make California a business-friendly state again, so that we can retain our businesses and some of the businesses that have left can come back?
Some people argue that California is, and I've had some guests on the show, that people want to be in California because this is a great market and businesses will have to come here and they'll have to have operation here because we have this economy. What are your thoughts on that?
We have the economy because we have people willing to spend money in California, but when people with money leave and consumers leave and families leave, it no longer becomes a state that is business friendly. Plus, I would argue we're squeezing out corporations and big businesses and entrepreneurs. Think about this. There's this great Robin Hood lie that politicians like to promote to the general public. If you make over X amount of dollars, whatever, $100,000, $250,000, or if you make less than that, if you make less than $100,000, less than $250,000, we're not going to tax you. We're going to protect you. We're just going to punish those that make more than that, because we're going to be like Robin Hood. We're going to take from the rich and we're going to give to the poor. Now that sounds like a great talking point until you realize the economics of that. So if you were to punish all the high net worth individuals and all the big corporations, right, and they carried all the burden, what's going to happen to those people, those high net worth individuals? What's going to happen? They're going to leave. When they leave, they take their businesses, they take their jobs, and they take their tax dollars. So if you have all of these high net worth individuals, all of these businesses, and all of these jobs leaving, what does that do to the middle class? They're left picking up the difference. So that whole idea of, let's discriminate and pick and choose who we punish based on their level of success is a great talking point and makes you feel good temporarily. Long term, it's going to put unnecessary burden on our middle class, and it's a flawed philosophy.
You mentioned the schools, and what are your plans to make an impact there, to make a change there?
There's many things wrong with our schools, first of all. First and foremost, we're going to stop some of this curriculum that's being taught to our children. So things like critical race theory, things like sexuality, a lot of sex ed needs to be taken out of our classrooms. Those are conversations that parents should be having with their children at the dinner table, not leaving up to teachers to have conversations with their children in schools. So that's fundamentally what's broken on the surface with our school system. Deeper with our school system, what's broken is that our school system is not creating leaders. We don't have a leadership-based curriculum. So our school system, our curriculum, it's incredibly out of date. It was created long before this tech boom, long before the type of jobs that are in demand right now were created. We need to get into a leadership type of curriculum where we're teaching our kids. Our kids, when they graduate high school, they should know how to invest. They should know how to open checking accounts, banking accounts. They should have fundamental tools, and they should be equipped to be productive members of society. We should be teaching invention, entrepreneurialism, investing. We don't do any of that. So we're thrusting our kids into the workforce completely unequipped to actually be productive adults. That needs to change. And then ultimately right now, parents no longer feel safe sending their kids to our public schools. So a lot of them are homeschooling, charter school. School choice is a big topic right now. I believe that if you're a taxpayer and the government hasn't done a good enough job making you feel safe to send your kids to public school, then your dollars should follow your child. So if you're paying tax dollars for your child's education and you decide that you want to homeschool your child, you should be able to have some of those funds allocated to you so you can do so properly.
And now, touching the school topic, when it seems like the teacher unions, they have a lot of power in Sacramento. What are your thoughts on dealing and working with them?
They have power because they have a lot of support. They have power because they have no real opposition. They have power because they haven't been choked off from funding. And that's what I will do. First of all, at a community level, we all need to kind of rise up and fight against the teacher unions at a local level. But at a government level, we can choke off funding. We can be a bigger opposition. And with school choice and money being able to follow the student, we've taken all their leverage away.
Now, there's another thing that I've noticed. I've had a lot of guests on this show talking about California issues. And what I'm seeing in California is that we have created a culture for politicians that there is no apology when there's a mistake. And the American way, what I've seen is that as a leader, you always recognize what you get wrong, you fix it, you admit it, you fix it, you get better, and you move on. When I lived in China, under the Chinese Communist Party, the way things would work is politicians or leaders would never admit their mistakes, and they kept going. I see this culture coming to Sacramento. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. As a CEO, you take ownership for everything that goes wrong in the company. I am constantly having to take ownership for missteps or mistakes, missed deadlines, things that have absolutely nothing to do with me. Things that I didn't control, things that were not under my management. But as the owner of the company, you take full responsibility for everyone that reports to you. Our government doesn't work that way. Our government blames everybody but the people in power. And so, again, that's part of the reason why we can't keep sending politicians in to fix problems that are created by other politicians. And celebrities aren't going to understand that aspect either. Because again, it's always somebody else's fault. It's that victim mentality. But that's what I bring to the table. As an entrepreneur, I've spent the 20 years that I've run my company owning everything, owning the mistakes we've made, the shortcomings we've made, being completely transparent with our team and our clients. And being in office, the California residents and citizens become I'm responsible for them, and the decisions that I make have a ripple effect, and I need to own every one of them. But thankfully, I operate in full transparency, and I bring a lot of that transparency into the office. And I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for people to finally understand the inner workings of government, how it works, and for someone to be there and be willing to actually turn Sacramento into a glass house where people can actually see in and see how it works and see the process. I'm actually excited for exposing all of that.
These special interests that are in Sacramento, they have a lot of power. They have
and money.
Media, they have newspapers. Do you think that you will face a big backlash if you were to get elected and start implementing plans like that?
No, because, I think eventually that'll happen, but it would be ignorant for them to attack somebody that the people just put in position, right? For us to flip the state from blue to red, and for me to get elected would mean that the people have spoken, and they've spoken very loudly. The one thing the media doesn't want to do and special interest doesn't want to do is provoke the type of people that would put me in office, because they put me in office because they were provoked. And if you think about it, our state has remained blue not because there's not enough Republicans or conservatives. It's because the Republicans and conservatives haven't been provoked enough to actually get out and vote. But when you attack their church, when you attack their families, and you attack their livelihood, you've crossed the line. I think our governor miscalculated how much these individuals, these groups would be provoked. So when you provoke those groups of people to act, and they actually elect somebody different in office, the media is now, they need to take note of that, and special interest needs to understand that these people have power. And me being from I deal with the media constantly. It's part of my business. I know how to work with the media. I know how to use the media, and I think we'll have a good relationship unless I misstep in any way, which I do not intend on doing.
How much of this recall election do you think is red versus blue, or versus Californians wanting to
That's
make a
the
decision?
beautiful part of this recall, and that's what I'm most excited about, and our entire platform is about. It has nothing to do with the right or left. It has nothing to do with the far right, far left, Republican, Democrat. The message that we're promoting is a message that's right in the middle. It's about freedom, liberty. It's about protecting our children, your right to work, your right to worship. The conversations we have with people across the state is a unifying message. You know, I'm Christian, but I have so many supporters that are Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, agnostic. I have children, I have family. I have so many supporters that don't have family. I have a business, and some of my supporters are business owners, and some just love business in California. So we have a unifying platform because it's not about politics. This whole thing isn't about politics. It's about freedom. It's about liberty. It's about what's right and just. And I believe that that's why we have an incredible opportunity to win, because we're not fighting party lines.
So if you were not to win this election, what would you recommend to somebody, that, whether Governor Newsom or somebody else is in office, what would you recommend them to do?
If it was Newsom, I would recommend he plan for a big fight come the general election, that his days are numbered, and that I don't see him being reelected even if he makes it through this recall. For somebody else that would win in the recall, I don't think like that. So you're asking me to consider a hypothetical that I'm unwilling to consider, because as a business owner and as a father to my children, I have always told them, you have a plan, and the minute you implement a plan B, you've already submitted to the fact that you could potentially not achieve your goal, and I'm not willing to do that.
Do you have any other thoughts for our audience?
I would urge everybody to do their homework, to fully understand what each candidate represents, not just their policies, but their principles, their character. And we need right now, more than ever, we need less politics and more principles in office. And so I would urge everyone to do their homework, to get involved, to get activated, to vote, but don't just vote by yourself. Take a car full of people. Take 5 people with you, have them take 5 people. We need to make this happen. California, our liberties, our freedoms are in jeopardy right now, and we have a small window of time to fix it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.